Have you done this type of activity yourself? Have you ever gone and done this? Oh, describe anything that interfered with your completing the task.
Time.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. And I really messed you up.
Don't worry.
2H. Have you done this type of activity yourself, and have you gotten PD for this kind of activity? Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. Have you developed PD for this?
Right.
Okay. Now we have to go to this thing.
Okay.
But we might have to go. Can we look down?
In your folder?
Yeah. I wonder if you went to that. Wonder if that tells us where to go. Here it is. Okay, so let's just try to go to that thing and see what it sends us. Because that might be... Oh, that's not old.
Okay.
That might be old. Let's try that. Okay. So just go through this while I sit here. And the thing is, you have to get 7 minimum in each box. And, if you start with the lower boxes, it's a little easier because there's a whole bunch.
Oh, wow.
But it's okay.
Okay. So here we go. Below are several types of activities that might be done by experts. Sort them.
Oh, can you pause this? Because we could save this recording. And say, this is my bucket 1.
Oh, wait.
Whoa. No.
Oh, my gosh. We got to get this.
How do you move that? There you go. Oh, wow. You can do that. That is so cool.
Let's see if it'll...
How did you do that? Maybe. Oh, it's not recording. You have that off. Okay, here's box 1. And then go down to there. Wait,
box 2.
Let's go up because I'm not sure I got them all. Okay, so this is, can you go up?
Yep.
Up. Okay, so there's 1 through 8. Okay, now what's the next ones? There's 9 through 16. Okay. 1 through 7 and 1 through 7. Okay. Now I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try to get this link because I must have the wrong. Oh, I don't have internet, but that's okay. So I must have an old link because it doesn't work. And she updated this. So let's just go to this. Who cares? That one right there? Is that it?
That's the PDF.
Yeah, let's just fill in the PDF.
Okay.
Because
do you want me to print this?
Yeah, do you have a printer? Mm-hmm. They took away all printers at our work.
What?
We have to go in the hall and do printing, and it's like impossible. Okay, describe your primary goals would be for teaching, and now you're teaching it. Okay. What would be your primary goals for teaching this unit?
So, in terms of instructional outcomes, are you thinking content goals? Are you thinking...
Anything. Like, let's say you were trying to teach this unit.
Okay,
What would you hope that they would have?
If I were to think about an instructional outcome for this particular unit...
or maybe a unit like this. In this task, you will be thinking about teaching DBQ units. Imagine you're teaching this unit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just unit.
So I think that there's definitely some, in terms of reading, right? I would want them to be able to look at multiple sources and be able to determine which evidence from those sources best supports their claims. I think what's healthy practice there is to have them actually identify what some of their, you were calling it hypotheses before. So if they have some sense of these are the causes, and they're constantly reading sources to then determine which causes are becoming much more, substantive, that I can use multiple pieces of evidence to support.
Right.
Important. And part of that, there's a reading goal that's there in terms of attending to particular components of the source, How do I determining credibility of the source, but then also taking the source and, like I said, being able to identify what that evidence is. And then there's a writing goal. How do I put all of this together into a coherent response that identifies the claim and uses multiple pieces of evidence and connects the evidence back to the claim. In terms of content, I think a really important goal would be now, of course, we didn't go through the whole thing, but to understand, child labor laws.
Right.
And what happens if a nation is exploiting. Is there any repercussion?
Okay. Next one, 3B. How would you go about teaching it?
So I'm thinking of my freshman here, I would probably create some kind of hook, some kind of activity that requires them to think about working conditions for children.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to, for lack of a better term, prime the pump a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And maybe get them to think about, why do people work? Questions around work.
Okay. And how else would you do it?
I might ask them to think about how does child labor look the same around the world? So, in your life, I'm sure you've worked. Let's use that as a point of entry. Right? I try to think about access points. And it is abundantly clear to me that many students probably don't have any kind of access.
Okay.
I'm less concerned about geography of Nepal. I mean, that would come in the unit.
Right.
More trying to get them to think about work.
Right.
And, what counts as work.
Mm-hmm.
Is babysitting work?
Mm-hmm.
We're recording, so okay. That's okay.
Okay. And would you use any other methods throughout the thing later, in addition to the hook? Because that's a great start.
One thing I found is using the practice of, making sure that there is a list. Okay, how can we answer this question right now? So, like, why, where'd it go? Why is there, why do hazardous conditions persist?
Yeah, labor.
Right?
Kids. Yeah.
So having a list and then providing consistent opportunity to have kids reevaluate that list.
Okay.
I think it's really important for kids to see that we may start with thinking in one way. I mean, my initial thought was like going to the corruption of the government.
Right.
Without even thinking about the earthquake.
Right.
So immediately my preconceptions about what I thought were being challenged.
Right.
In some way, which I think is important for kids to experience. And then what do we do how do we navigate that? Another thing I think is important is for kids to and I wonder the degree to which a timeline is important here. The materials I haven't looked through enough, but I always think about how can we construct timelines just to keep. I'm not going to impose a timeline, but what could be a timeline so that I'm kind of making sure that I'm keeping track of time in a way that's organized, when going to the product, I think it's always important if we're going to have the students write, or is there another product?
Yeah, it would be this, but not as bullet point. Whatever
Right.
that was. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but as an essay.
Right. So in terms of writing an essay, I would have them do almost like a marathon write where they write everything down and then they swap papers to give each other friendly feedback. I also think it's important in the writing process for them to be able to critique a student work. I often start the year with like model, this is what it looks like. And then as the year progresses, I give them increasingly worse essays to critique.
Oh, okay.
But a lot comes out of that in terms of what do you think what are your commendations? What are you going to say? Good job. I really like the way I give them sentence stems for that, but give them ways to talk about, I really like the way this student X.
Right.
Versus a recommendation. I think a student needs improvement in this way.
Okay, great. What would be the easiest part of this for your kids?
And thinking about my students, probably the brainstorming, probably some of that low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, why? Well, it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily engaging them too deeply in some of those practices that I think require routine, like sourcing.
Okay. And then describe what you think your students would find most challenging. What you just said, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. How now visualize students who may have difficulty. Describe these students or group of students.
So close reading practices are a challenge for a lot of my students.
Mm-hmm.
And a modification might be to ask them questions, and I'm not like the printed alongside the sources, but provide for opportunity to have the kids engage in discussion or that bring multiple texts together.
Okay.
Or a practice that I've been doing recently with images is which of the following words would best summarize this photograph or this political cartoon. And then they're using evidence from the text to support that claim. And you could do that, I think, with the child photographs, like it could be emotion. So it's a great way to introduce tone words. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think the emotion is that the photographer is trying to convey? Mm-hmm. And then give them a tone word to select from. And then what evidence from the text, from this photograph, would you use to support that claim?
Okay.
So it's deepening their understanding of the text without giving them manufactured questions.
Okay. If you had the opportunity for PD, okay, we're not going to answer that one. But if you did have more opportunity,
Absolutely.
What would you
What would I do?
do? Yeah.
I would love to fly to Stanford and sit in their brainstorming session.
Yeah.
I went to a session at NCSS that Brad Fogo, and I don't remember his other name, they were moving through how they put their text set together.
This is like a very important question.
And I was like, this could have been an all-day PD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they gave us, they thought out loud. They modeled their thinking.
Do they have a paper on this? But I guess it's not the same getting a paper as sitting through PD.
Right.
That's a whole different thing.
They have slides.
Yeah.